Dear Jeff, as I sat down to put my thoughts into words, I couldn't help but feel a variety of emotions welling up inside me. It wasn't an easy decision for me to leave you, and I hope you understand that it's not about blame or resentment. It's about acknowledging the changes that have taken place within me and recognizing my responsibility to address them honestly. We had a good time. From the early days of our relationship to building a life together, we've faced challenges and celebrated together. We had success together, but at some point I lost myself in the familiar routine. Just so you know, this isn't about you or our relationship. It's about my need to rediscover who I am. In our relationship, I've spent so long defining myself in relation to you that I've neglected my own dreams and desires. I am writing this letter to you as an act of honesty for both of us, and I can't bear to see the hurt in your eyes or the tears in your eyes. When I try to explain these feelings to you, there was pain in your voice because I was having a hard time. So I hope you understand, and I wish you much happiness in the days ahead. It's worth having someone who can love you with all their heart without reservation or hesitation. I hope we'll take a look. I look back on our time together with gratitude for what I learned and the memories we shared. Take care of yourself, Jeff. You will always have a special place in my heart. Maybe that's why I decided to leave. I found myself craving a new EXP experience. I don't think our relationship can provide the kind of excitement it did when we were young. And you were really charismatic. I remember you playing guitar in the band with Buddy, riding your Harley, and wearing leather. Your blonde hair flutters in the wind as we dance the night away, whether it's at a rock club or a. You really made me feel alive. I felt alive, but as time went on we became. Maybe it's too comfortable and the gigs with the band fade away as you focus on coaching soccer. IDL, it's in the garage, hidden under the kids' sports gear. I can't dance on the dance floor like I used to. You still have that. Now that the kids are older, I know my hair has gotten prettier. Considering the recent changes in our lifestyle, I don't feel too comfortable with the idea of a minivan. I want to make it clear that I have not been unfaithful and that you have been the only man in my life. But I found myself attracted to some new ideas, and before I acted on those feelings, I felt that I should. I can't bear the thought of betrayal. I love you too much to let you down, I talked to Sam about the divorce. He had the necessary paperwork ready, and I only took my clothes and personal belongings and agreed to share my pension equally with you, as well as half of our debts. Given that I contributed to these debts, I just want to be as fair as possible, so please, mourn in your own way so that we can avoid unnecessary tension when we attend events for child. Run organized by, I believe. If you feel the need to respond, I promise to read your thoughts carefully and respect your feelings. Ellen, I read the note over and over again, right where I found it in the kitchen, and if the tears hadn't already flowed, I would have. He was so numb that he failed to notice the signs of this impending revelation, failed to express dissatisfaction, failed to. Signs of unfulfilled desire, no arguments, no hints of another man in her life. We share touches, kisses, and smiles, and all the moves of a couple planning their future. Over the past year, I have tried to show her love again. I want to rekindle our passion as our youngest child is in college. I bought her jewelry, but she said it was too expensive, and she said she preferred chocolate. Intimacy, and thought I was putting pressure on her. She said holding hands was enough, but I ignored it and thought it was. It's just part of adjusting to middle age, so I'm the last to know I've taken a. After finishing one beer, I stepped into the shower and grabbed two more as the water ran across the room. The next morning, I woke up with a stabbing pain. After my shower, I lay on the basement floor with a splitting headache, and I stumbled upstairs to clean up all the stuff I'd already consumed. When I was 11 years old, my grandmother died, and at her wake, my grandfather took me aside and cried, saying, he shared some wisdom with me when he told me that you have 3 days to mourn the loss, just as God does. You can come back to life in 3 days. You can cry and scream and vent your. When you get to a certain age and get frustrated, have a drink, have a good fight, and then pray and give yourself permission to do the. Move on with your life. Honor the dead. Don't dwell on the past. You can't change it. Focus on the present and the future. Grandpa's words touched me deeply. I saw my wife's death as the end of our marriage. I was devastated. I even smashed my bleeding hand through the plasterboard walls and used my fists and furniture too. I yelled and screamed, kicked and drank, and barely ate. Beer is made from grains, yeast and water, bread and wine are made from fruit. That's how I understand it. I was on summer vacation when she chose to leave. At the end of the school year, I decided to leave school the following Tuesday. The first thing I did was call my kids. Ellen had told them about her choice, and they were desperately trying to reach her. I was too drunk to answer the phone, but I assured them I was fine, and then I started organizing my room and arranged for a truckload of trash to be picked up by my favorite charity. Donations. I have no intention of keeping the remnants of my failed marriage. I only keep the heirlooms. Furniture and boxes of children's photos and albums. Everything else met the same fate. Knickknacks. I got rid of all the knickknacks. I wasn't interested in Spanish pottery or brass cats from Portugal. Over the next few days, I made a trip to Home Depot to stock up on flooring, carpet, paint, and new sheetrock. I wanted to transform the house into my own space where pink and coral walls and furry curtains were a thing of the past. In the past, I also visited Sam to finalize divorce papers, which were uncontested, and I finalized this around the time school resumed and sold the school. I traded it in on a '76 Triumph Spitfire convertible, which is exactly the kind of British car I've been dreaming of. Racing green with beige leather interior and chrome wire wheels after clearing out the used clutter in the garage. The most important decision I made was to get in touch with a friend who changed my life. Like my wife's parting letter a few days ago, my life was quickly turned upside down in the half hour it took to share it with me. News friends and gangs come to my doorstep. Friends and I have been close since the third grade. We started our own band. He was my best man, and I was his maid of honor. The breakup of my marriage was a big blow to him, and he has been supportive. But our loyal supporters think otherwise. At weddings, funerals, parties, and picnics, we often offer our services at a discounted rate or for free because when I said I wanted to renovate my place and make it truly my own, I cherished the community that followed us from show to show. Over the next few weeks, the doors to Fortnite opened wide and carpenters, masons, plumbers, and more came through. Carpenters, masons, plumbers, every imaginable craftsman was involved in fixing more than just the walls for me. My house has been transformed inside and out. Their wives and girlfriends began coming to oversee the renovations. For a long time, they have brought their single friends to what we jokingly refer to as one of Jeff's love life projects. They're trying to set me up, but it's too early for that. It wasn't long before I was dancing and attending self-organized barbecues and parties 2 to 3 nights a week. I wasn't ready to commit to a new relationship before I was. But my friend had already begun to entertain the idea of getting the band back together. Even before I moved in, we had a connection. He even booked us for a Sunday afternoon double bill at a popular seafood restaurant on the waterfront. It was as if we never stopped hanging out together, and we were both at similar stages in our lives. Our children are either grown or independent. We all look spry and our hair is still. Along with our drummer Ronnie, we're bang on schedule, and our loyal fans are waking up from hibernation, eager to. Every night, whenever my sons get a chance, they come to the show. I occasionally worked with the band during the renovation process, but I made sure they understood that they couldn't reveal any information. I tell them anything they want to know about me. He said that my father was upset at first, but it has gotten better, and my daughter lives in Australia with her fiancé. I trust that my children will respect my wishes. And I know that. They were honest when they told me that Ellen had been kept in the dark in order to eliminate loneliness. I focus on developing healthy habits, adjusting my diet, and strengthening my exercise. But now that I'm training hard in the pool and on the road, whether I'm running or biking, I'm a new man. Every night before I go to a show, I make up my mind. After Alan left, I rebuilt my home, my social circle, my daily schedule, my relationship with my kids, and my Zeke. Thanks, Ellen. You're right. By Jeff, I sent her an email, short and to the point. Honestly, I didn't bother looking for a new address. I didn't want rumors about her going around. They heard whispers that she was having an affair with a younger man who drove a flashy car and had a mouth full of silver teeth. Whenever someone tries to film my life with her, I politely decline. Listening amongst our mutual friends, these fragments piece together a whirlwind romantic narrative. The time span is September to June, or October to June, or even November to May. But none of that matters to me, and I truly hope she's doing well. I was satisfied with my accomplishments, and I was too focused on the present to dwell on the past. But August is full of musical opportunities, and my friends and I are booked. We perform 2 to 3 times a day throughout Labor Day and September. Due to my busy schedule, I have not had a chance to check Ellen's email responses. Our exchange was supposed to be brief, a way to end the outstanding issues, as she hoped it would be. I've been too busy taking care of things and having too much fun to worry about email. When Sam called me to tell me that the outcome of our divorce proceedings was a certain clerk with connections to the family court judge is a fan of our band, and I will officially be a one-man band with his help. After a month and a half of metamorphosis, Friday will mark my return to bachelorhood. She was scheduled to perform at an arts festival at a street fair in town, and suddenly all those people in short skirts and, when we took the stage, low-cut necklines were fair game, and the streets were packed. Our hard-hitting blues style, as well as covers of original and improvised tunes, kept the crowd enthusiastic. They went through our archives and unearthed our old owner, which gave me a thrill. But now, we have enough material for an album, so we're mixing old and new tracks for a quick release. On the shelves, women of all ages were giving me strange looks, which meant that I was fully prepared to end my dry spell with these women. As I picked up my guitar, I didn't notice that Alan was trying to sneak backstage. A few years ago, I converted my bike into a guitar hauler. Also missed the moment when she saw another blonde, Michelle, within 30 seconds. In the entire 25 years I've been riding, this is the first time anyone else has sat behind me. As I drove away, I didn't see the tears in Ellen's eyes. I wish I had, Michelle. Had tears in her eyes. It was incredible. As for the details of our encounters or the closeness of our connection, you can imagine. I pursued her with the excitement of a teenager, achieving a level of fulfillment I had never experienced before. At the end of the evening, she thanked me for the time I spent with her, but suggested I not call her again, maybe. I knew I couldn't hide from Alan forever. The next time I saw her was at our regular Friday night show at Jimmy's when she walked in with her new partner and another guy. They found a table and ordered drinks. We have a tradition of playing American Woman whenever one of us discovers an ex. The girlfriends and the wrong people in the crowd, they always have the microphone, and it's our way of showing solidarity. Also, we firmly believe that dating a friend's ex is a no-no, and we've never crossed the line. As I began to play this guitar strum, my vocals became more subdued. I found myself enjoying American Woman more than ever, and I really went all in. The lyrics and guitar solo resonated with me. The crowd was really into it, and I didn't see a reaction from Alan. But then Buddy's wife told me that when I sang lyrics like "Stay Away From Me," she saw tears in Alan's eyes. Moving on. Let me be Ellen, leaving before the end of the song, barely holding on to her companions and friends. Those who stayed, however, continued to drink and dance until the end of the night. A week later, my oldest son was visiting, and I heard that Ellen and her boyfriend had broken up that night. He seems to be bored with her, and she's having trouble keeping up with his energetic lifestyle, both physically and mentally. Otherwise, he'd also be frustrated by Alan's avoidance of our performance of Venus. Moreover, he was not pleased to learn that Alan relinquished ownership of our house in the divorce, and he plans to move back in with me. I suspect he just wants my money, but he's really bold, and he probably doesn't know about Alan's father. I made a sign that said if either of us left the marriage for someone else, we lost all rights to the family assets. I didn't think twice about agreeing. I didn't want to hurt Ellen after she left. I talked to the kids on the phone, and I sympathize with them, but I've been through 3 days of mourning myself, and now I'm able to offer support without getting emotional. But the kids aren't happy with my distant attitude. They still think I'm not affectionate and think I should let their mom stay. But I didn't agree to let her move back in because it would have meant dealing with the inevitable mood swings of menopause is already a challenge I face in my marriage. Add to that the boyfriend's rejection, the embarrassment of coming back to me, and the guilt over I wasn't ready to deal with all of this on a daily basis when I left at first, and I'm enjoying my newfound life. As each day passes, the children's expectations become lower and lower. I allowed them to make a more reasonable request for help. I even lent them furniture and other valuables until Ellen found her own place. Since the new school year was in full swing and the band schedule was pretty full, I asked the band truck to help with the move. Although we both work in the same district, we work in different school buildings, so we don't see each other as much as we should. On rare occasions, I found people at school talking about me, Maybe because of my Harley or sports car. Maybe because I'm more energized at work. I'm content and don't miss married life. Flying to France for Thanksgiving has been a long-time dream of mine. This year, as I was packing for my son called the night before I left and invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. At Alan's house, he was upset when I explained that I already had plans, but he quickly suggested that we host a family Christmas. He and his girlfriend offered to take care of the cooking if I provided the venue. They expressed a strong desire to have a special day to reminisce about the past, and I agreed to their conditions. Alan doesn't bring female companions, and I was surprised to learn from my son that Alan isn't dating anyone. Nonetheless, I didn't inquire further about her love life. My main concern was to get her to make sure the family gathering went smoothly and without any awkwardness. I offered to let the kids stay at my house as long as. My son was worried that Alan would feel out of place, and he wanted them to be together instead of staying in a hotel. I realized that this would be the first time that our entire family had. After the kids moved out, I said Ellen should come too, but she had to sleep in the guest room. I don't think it's wise to let her stay in her old room. If you bring guests, they will need to share a room with you. Or find other accommodations. Thanks, Dad. It means a lot to all of us. This year it was a Saturday, and the festivities started Thursday night with everyone arriving and my daughter and her fiancé flying in. My son and his girlfriend drove from Boston to pick up my youngest daughter who is in college. I saw her sitting in the car, looking at them a little nervously. I embraced laughter in my front yard, and for the first time since I moved, I felt a wave of sentimentality. As the six of them entered through the front door, they were greeted by the warmth of the. It occurred to me that neither my daughter nor my ex-wife had set foot in the house since I remodeled it. My wife hasn't been in the house since I redecorated it, which was a bit of a surprise to her. I surprised them when they came. For years there were candles, nutcrackers, and decorations everywhere, and now on my new furniture, the Christmas tree is covered with old decorations I've collected from the holidays. A craft from the kids' art class, it stands proudly in my old place. A fireplace was added during the renovation, and its warm glow adds to the festive atmosphere of the space, as does the aroma of pine. Years ago, Alan's grandmother passed down china to me as a wedding gift, and it's clear that I've changed china. Our house became my home, and it was ready to host Christmas for my family. And, despite everything that had happened, they were still. Even though we are divorced, she is still my family. The kids are grown, but she is still my flesh and blood. For most of my adult life, I've been thrilled when they explore the bedroom I redecorated for my kids. It's almost exactly how they remember it, with a few minor updates here and there. For example, change your daughter's room to a soft pastel color palette and replace their old single beds with cozy queen-size beds. While keeping their childhood desk and dresser, I updated the headboard to match the spacious guest room. Converted into a studio with a drafting table for painting by the window and plenty of space for musical instruments and amplifiers. I also expanded the side of the first floor, turning a small library into a large one. The living room has been rearranged around the new fireplace, which is adorned with brand new Christmas ornaments. Each of us, including Ellen, had a sock, and the kids' socks filled right up. As they ran for their stockings, grinning mischievously, it was as if time had turned back and they had become nostalgics. The carefree children are once again in the holiday spirit, while the older two bring a touch of maturity to their partner. They also tell stories about stockings that evoke memories of our stocking-filling traditions. They'd put cheap little gifts and treats in their stockings, and then they'd put the gifts under the Christmas tree, and then they'd finally put the gifts under the Christmas tree. They nibbled on cookies and chocolates, and the air was filled with laughter and the rustle of wrapping paper. Dawn brought silly novelty stockings, and they all reveled in the joy of Christmas morning. Dad. Empty, we didn't know, so we didn't bring anything to stuff it with, and they said to put my. I looked at the stockings on the mantelpiece and said, you felt it, didn't you? You will fill it with loving Christmas hugs and kisses as we wish each other a Merry Christmas. Christmas Ellen stayed in our arms a little longer than expected, but for a moment it felt natural, like we were. The children remain one big happy family when they find presents under the Christmas tree. After Christmas, gifts were exchanged, feasts were enjoyed, and dishes were cleaned up. As night fell, we began to fall asleep individually. When it's time to go to bed, Ellen goes to the hall closet to get her coat. Thank you for being so nice to me today. I'm really impressed. Thank you for spending Christmas with your kids. I know I have myself to blame for this. But of all the things I've given up, most miss family time. The kids are all grown up and have lives of their own. So this gathering will be no different. Rarely, even if we were still together, would I reply, acknowledging the bittersweetness of our situation. But I also miss the good old days that the two of us used to share, those times when it was just us as a couple. I think I'm finally going to apologize to you for really screwing up the good life we were supposed to have. We've always encouraged kids to pursue their dreams and find happiness, and you've done that. She gave me a disbelieving look. After today, you won't feel nostalgic or sorry for what we lost. What do you think we've lost? We've lost each other. I've lost you. I'll never forgive myself. You don't seem to care at all. My tears streamed down her face. I put my arms around her, and she completely broke down. I had shed tears when she first left, but seeing her, when she finally calmed down, I reminded her of in college, she ended her relationship with me, worried that things were moving too fast and she needed time to. I told her I was sad when she left, but I told her that I was devoted to her, and I explained how I was. After our marriage ended, she gave herself a mourning period and was ready to embrace life again. She is a beautiful part of my life, and for that I am grateful. I stayed calm, and it helped to calm her down, and I asked her to stay. In the evening, I made her single bed, offered her one of my t-shirts, and I dressed and put on my robe. After securing the house, I went back upstairs and heard her whimpering. I wasn't sure she would be asleep, but I slept well the next day and felt like Christmas had come early. We didn't discuss our past all weekend while they were around, but I noticed some familiar expressions. Ellen's eyes showed the look of love in our marriage. I saw love in her wonderful smile, and she even responded with a few words, silently asking for hugs and kisses. We seemed to understand each other as we did when we were married over dinner. I buttered my pancakes and she buttered mine perfectly. After the kids left, my daughter and boys went to Boston and then to Vermont to ski. I was left alone in the home we shared. I built a fire. She opened a bottle of wine, and we sat together. I was stupid and I was wrong, she said softly. I'm sorry, and I know I can never fully make amends, and I don't expect your forgiveness, but I do want to apologize. I wish we could at least be friends again. You're not just my husband, you're my best friend, my most trusted ally, my partner in mischief, every part of me that I miss. I smiled at her, and suddenly I felt I could talk, and Ellen showed me how to. She'll realize she pushed me away, she'll get bored, and she'll say that meeting a younger man turned her on. She told me that she had been demonizing me to justify her actions, and that she portrayed me as. But in reality, her behavior was destructive. She seemed to think I was indifferent and let her slip away. He also confessed that he was jealous of my life when I got back on my feet and resumed the lifestyle I had before we met, especially when she saw another woman riding on the back of my Harley motorcycle. Her jealousy turned to anger as she witnessed I've been with different women, and each one has offered something she thought was superior to what she gave me emotionally. Her condition worsened after the divorce, especially when she discovered that her younger lover had a habit of dating people. He seems to like spending their husband's money, especially after his traditional father cut off his trust fund. Alan struggles to find another partner. After the breakup, it seemed that qualified men her age were either already married or unwilling to commit to a woman. She cheated on her faithful first husband, and there are plenty of men willing to buy her drinks, dance with her, or pay big bucks for her food and drink. But there was no lasting option for a young man to be happy to date her. After all, she still kept her. But they are not interested in long-term relationships. I poured us both another glass of wine and handed her hers with a smile. And from what you've told me, it looks like you made some stupid choices, but you don't owe me anything. I was surprised to see her expression change when I told her I forgave her almost immediately. If you want to leave this marriage, I can't stop you. Your note seems harsh at first, but it makes sense in hindsight, and it makes things. For us, we avoided property disputes and didn't have to worry about custody issues since the kids were all grown. I should thank you for that, and I paused before continuing, so I'm no longer your husband, which may take time. Trust is an issue until you consider me your best friend or confidant, which will take time, but if It's great that you're willing to trust my advice, and ultimately, it's up to you. Prison seems a little too romantic for where we are right now. But let's start by calling ourselves friends who shed tears for her. Tears glistened in her eyes as she melted into my arms, and she decided to stay another night. But we slept separately, and we have a lot on our plate, but it seems we're comfortable sharing the role of parenting again. The following day, she came home too, and I was getting ready for a New Year's trip to Boston to be with the kids while I had gigs. It's a busy time for musicians, and I'm focusing on my work, so Alan is barely on my mind. Our paths crossed at an in-service training meeting in April. As we shared a table for lunch, we talked about our daughter's upcoming wedding at the wedding. In Australia, we chatted a lot and seemed to drift back into the role of friends. At lunch, Ellen thanked me for the hospitality I had shown her that day and at Christmas, and she said she was glad we were moving. Then she asked me to do her a favor. She blushed, hesitated, and stammered a request for me to go to the movies with her. I responded eagerly by suggesting that we ride our Harleys on a Saturday too. She stopped for lunch on the north side to enjoy the fresh air, and she was cheerful and lively, and memories of her riding with me when we were young came flooding back. I knew things were different now, and as we rode to the falls and hiked the trail, I couldn't help but think of the. During our carefree days together, we stopped in a quaint town to browse the stores, which I don't usually do. I enjoyed the day, but it was a special one, for I had a delightful lunch with her, and by dinner we were back in the South, and stopped at a charming seafood pier for a candlelit dinner. When we got back to my house, there was a strong connection between us, and we ended up in bed. After that night, we continued to see each other. Over the next week, we had dinner together, we watched a movie, and we had lunch together a couple of times, but we never discussed where our relationship will go from here. Neither of us knows. We both mentioned exclusivity. Our daughter's wedding was. We discussed all the details, and I'm proud to say that I've paid for everything, no. Complaining that the band was poorly run, that we paid off the mortgage while we were still married, and that I had no. The only detail we didn't share was our travel plans. We each made our own arrangements, but when we found out we were booked on the same flight. In contrast, I invited her to meet me at my house so we could share a car, and I rented a car to take us to the airport. On the day of the trip, Alan came early, and the car pulled into the driveway before I had a chance to pack. Our driver dropped us off at JFK, checked our bags, and we entered the terminal together. The check-in area was not crowded because there was a direct flight from JFK to Sydney that day. He asked me why I didn't take the short line for first-class passengers on a long flight, but I'm not used to getting these perks. The agent thought it was funny and sent me to first class. Ellen was waiting for me in the lounge, and together we went through security and then headed to the lounge. Ellen's entry on an economy class ticket was not challenged, but she was offered to be upgraded to first class so that she could travel with. You may think I'm sentimental, but there's something special about flying halfway across the world with your mother. My daughter is attending my wedding, and I find it a bit uncomfortable for her to sit in a first-class seat that reclines into a bed. When we were about to board the plane, she was crammed into economy class, and I made her wait, which both annoyed and worried her. She started to fuss, so I explained that I had already checked her in. When we arrived at the lounge, she took the first seat next to me, which eased her irritation. I explained that it was for the bride's mother, and her mood changed dramatically. I even thought about joining the Mile High Club for a while, but that would have been ridiculous and laughable. Public displays of affection are definitely not my style, especially on an airplane. Lab we la, dead in Sydney, and it was a week of pure magic as we toured the city. I can't tell you how proud I am, especially when I was cheering her on after walking her down the aisle at the wedding reception. I still had a chance to. I was in the band with her brothers. American Girl is our musical tribute to our little girl after celebrating the 100th anniversary of President Ellen Obama's birth. I met up with the boys in the hotel lounge, and one of them went straight to the point and asked, "What's new with you?" "Nothing, honey." Ellen replied that your dad and I are just coming to terms with our roles as your parents, that we've gotten over the past and are enjoy life. Do you agree? You seem to be getting close again, even getting back together, and I'm not blind to it, honey. I had a moment of, I admit I made a stupid mistake and take the consequences. Me and your father. I've discussed it, and as we've always taught you, I've made a decision to leave the relationship, and I'll take the The consequences of kids seeking advice from me. I sat there, smiling and sipping my local Aussie beer. Come on. Mom and Dad answered the question. Can we still hear you? Boys, you should be thankful we haven't been yelling at each other here all week. I've heard that's the divorced couples do this all the time, among other things. And I believe your question. It's none of your business. I taught you not to gossip. Why should I tell you? When a girl says she just wants to be friends with me, she's old enough to understand without giving me nightmares. And please tell us, given our history, are you and Mom just friends? She was the love of my life, the mother of my children, and my best friend. It's a friend of mine. You can't just turn it on or off. I can't answer that because we hadn't finished our story yet, and we talked a little more before bed. And just as I was about to go to bed, I changed my clothes. I put on my pajamas. There was a knock on the door. It was Ellen. I let her in. We climbed into bed. We didn't have sex. Before I could catch my breath, she began to say. She thanked me for the wonderful week we had, for handling the wedding as a team, and for telling her that. I was exhausted from playing with the kids in the lounge, and she was so grateful that I could barely keep up with her, thanks to her. When she arrived at my house, I felt like the ride home was a dream. I want you to know that I am there for you whenever and wherever you need me. I forgot why I loved you. In becoming an adult, I loved you so much. I will be there for you if you need anything at all. I could be your friend. I could be your friend. I can be your friend. I could be your friend. I could be your friend. I can be your friend. I can be your friend. I could be your friend. I can be your friend. I could 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 be your friend. I can be your friend. Tennis partners, backup singers even. Lovers. I can cook, do the laundry, do the dishes or anything else you need. I wouldn't ask or expect exclusivity if you want it. The answer is yes. Friend, girlfriend, mistress, lover, wife, whatever you want to call me, just ask. Alan, that's very kind of you, and I'm glad we're reconnecting, but I'm not too keen on labeling us. I don't know where we're going, but I'm glad we're on this journey together, or at least part of it. First living with my mom and sister, then marrying you after college. I kind of like living at home. I love to cook food the way I like it and I got my favorites in the fridge. I love playing in bands, and I have to admit, it's always been a dream of mine to have an open love life. Do you remember my reply to your letter? You said I was right, thanked me, and said goodbye. You didn't even sign it love. I meant every word I said. We need to change. Thank you and goodbye are sincere. Love would make me feel out of place. What can I say? I feel like a poor beggar. I'm not good at this, so I write what needs to be said, that's all. Tom, I've told you everything you want to know. You show me you care. You're still looking for me. You want me, you support me, you care about the kids, you love me more. Then you are a casual lover. Even sharing dinners and breakfasts, you honor the. I have enough history with us to upgrade to first class and pay for our daughter's wedding without asking for anything in return. Come back and tell our son that I am the love of your life. And the only thing missing is a permanent role as your wife. If you're asking, I'd say yes. She kissed me. Good night. I thought about what she said, but let's be realistic. Why settle for just one? My own children are growing up at home, and my wife is determined to provide them with financial security and X. She has a fit body, all my hair, a successful band, a Harley motorcycle, and a steady stream of women were eager to ride on the back of my bike. And I loved Ellen and the idea of sharing my golden years with her. I'm not ready, and I haven't written to Jeff yet, so I didn't feel responsible for any of the consequences. I had forgiven her, and my life was in order, so I gave up on her. She laughed when I asked her if. She told me she was fine to go to the meeting and invited me over. I started my Harley and headed to the restaurant, knowing that someday I would propose to Ellen again. But that day was not today. Story 2. I started liking her, and the good thing was that we were both single, and I was willing to take a chance with her. Since I was a teenager, I've always loved smart girls who would blow my mind with their super brains. My prayers were answered when I met my ex-girlfriend. I thought I would marry her, but I was wrong. We were only friends for 7 months before I asked her out because I didn't want to wait any longer before someone else took her away from me. The first month we dated, I thought we were made for each other. Yeah. Grown under her influence, and many things in my life have changed. Thank God I met her. I try to give her gifts from time to time, even though they are not expensive. Commercials, and even an ad for a popular marketing book are everywhere. After that, she got lucky when a top company asked her to work as a business consultant. I am a marketer and do my best to close large deals in the country. In the first 2 years of dating my ex, my wife and I closed a deal I couldn't close in 4 years for not much money, but my wife and I were both happy. For me, it was just a stepping stone, and it wasn't long before our relationship started to hit its stride. Convincing clients and closing deals in marketing, she grew up, we got married after 3 years of dating, and our lives. Before we remarried, we agreed not to have children. We reached a financial goal and stuck to it. I believe that successful people succeed in the same way that we succeed. We could have done the same for the first 3 years of our marriage, and we put a lot of effort into staying up all night brainstorming. We started a business together and even sacrificed a lot to achieve our goals. We own a 2005 automobile and put every penny we earned from our work into the business we were trying to grow. Luckily, in our 4th year of marriage, our sales skyrocketed and even top organizations knew about us. In our 4th year of marriage, we also decided to take a well-deserved vacation after our short honeymoon. Because my dream became a reality, we were able to move into a bigger, more comfortable apartment in our business. We have expanded our remote staff, even as I'm glad to see the money rolling in, and my wife and I will finally be able to live the life we had before. I've always dreamed of our vacations being incredibly full of intimacy and the chance to rekindle our passion. However, it made me realize a very painful truth that I'm still trying to come to terms with. My ex-wife was still taking online yoga classes while on vacation, and it was part of her that I had to deal with. On the 3rd day we went on vacation, sick or not, she stood her ground and never missed a beat. That morning we returned to the apartment to rest, and in the afternoon she said she wanted to go for a walk and asked me. But I was still sleepy, so I told her I'd stay back and rest. I can no longer sleep or reach her because she doesn't leave the house with her cell phone, playing games on her tablet. I don't use my phone because I get distracted and spend the whole afternoon working or talking to people. I had just started playing the game when my employee popped up a notification that her yoga instructor's last. The message he sent her said, "I love you," with the love emoticon at the end. The instructor was just being nice to her, but I wanted more information. So when I saw what was on the message, I clicked on the message. I was very shocked by their major WhatsApp chats, which contained messages go, "ING back a year," and exchanging nude photos, swearing at each other, making fun of other members of the yoga class. I couldn't believe that my ex-wife was cheating on me with her yoga instructor. Because we were all so busy on our phones, I never suspected anything. I even found out that they met at a different hotel each time to make out. I realized that my ex-wife was not obsessed with yoga, but she's obsessed with her yoga instructor, and she repeatedly tells him that she worships the ground he walks on. According to her information, he was her spirit guide, showing her the real truth and reading all that weird stuff. Seeing photos and videos, seeing them together, destroys a part of me, even if the psychic tells me that. I wouldn't trust my wife to cheat or would cheat. I wanted nothing more than to spend the rest of my life with her. And when I'd seen enough, I forwarded all the messages, photos, and videos. I deleted all traces on her cell phone. She asked me what was wrong, so I told her I lost a big deal and felt terrible. When we returned, I knew she wouldn't miss her yoga class the next day. I surprised her in class and asked her if I could play the game, playing something on the big screen in front of her. Her yoga instructor immediately said yes. The first video began to play, and everyone gasped in amazement and turned their heads to look at her and their yoga instructor eye. Looking at my ex-wife standing there with a confused look on her face and tears in her eyes, she had tried to approach me. But eventually she ran out of the hall with an embarrassed look on her face. Her yoga instructor tried to hide and looked mortified, but I also played the recording and everyone saw the message. And I came home to find her already. She moved some of her stuff out of our room and left a note saying she was sorry. After the divorce, we split every penny we made from the business equally. The yoga instructor was fired, and he and I both. My ex-wife, my wife reappeared at the agency, even though I knew I could, despite all our accomplishments together. I still hate her so much without her that she can't even face me. To apologize, she just wrote a note, and we haven't spoken since then. It's been 2 years now, and I'm still trying to move on. and this story reflects deep disappointment and pain. It leads to the protagonist investing a lot in the relationship and envisioning a future together, but his trust is broken by. Against the backdrop of his deep trauma, the protagonist's reaction to his spouse's betrayal is too. But revenge rarely leads to true healing, promoting honesty, openness, and communication in relationships.